It's getting better, but in 1956, when I first started out, I was hearing the same thing.
Oh, I don't know what makes them think that. You know, this gold bell thing.
No wonder the fans and an army of pressmen were on hand. This was indeed an occasion.
Elvis Presley may have faked his death and is living as Pastor Bob Joyce, hiding in plain sight. Fans are stunned by his identical voice, facial features, and even the same ear-scratching habit. For skeptics, the clues are unsettling. To fans, they are undeniable. Tune in as we uncover more shocking links that could reveal the greatest story never told. The tale of Pastor Bob Joyce and the legend of rock and roll. Some fans believe that Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll, may not have died at all, but instead chose to live a quiet life under the name Pastor Bob Joyce. This preacher from Arkansas has an almost unsettling resemblance to him, from his deep, rich voice to his mannerisms and expressions, causing many to wonder if the king himself might still be among us, hiding in plain sight. The king may have been hiding in plain sight all along, a revelation more shocking than we dared to imagine. To start, their facial features are nearly identical. Pastor Bob and the king share the same high cheekbones, sharp jawline, and those famously arched eyebrows. It's not just a passing resemblance. It feels almost deliberate, as though he has returned, subtly altered but unmistakably himself. But it isn't only the looks. Both men have a peculiar habit. They often scratch their left ear in the exact same way. To some, this small, specific gesture feels like an undeniable link, as if even his smallest habits carried over into his new identity. It's an intimate detail, one that adds depth to the idea that the king may have left behind more than his fame. Beyond mannerisms, physical details continue to add to the mystery. Pastor Bob stands at 6 feet tall, just like the king, and they share the same shoe size, an uncommon size 11, and a similarly athletic build. Each small piece of information feels like another clue in a larger mystery, fueling fans' beliefs that this pastor could indeed be him, living a life away from the spotlight. And then there's the voice. Anyone who hears Pastor Bob speak is struck by the similarity to the deep southern drawl, with that same soulful resonance. When Pastor Bob sings during his sermons, it's more than just reminiscent of him. It's downright chilling. Listeners feel as though they're hearing the king of rock and roll himself, especially when Pastor Bob sings gospel, a genre that he poured his heart into throughout his career. It's in these moments that fans feel a spark of something familiar, as if his own spirit is reaching out through each note. His connection to gospel music was well known, and Pastor Bob's passion for it feels like more than just coincidence. The songs he chooses are often the same ones that he held close, revealing a connection to music that seems to transcend time and identity. Those who hear Pastor Bob sing are struck by the intensity and emotion he brings to each performance, a level of passion that seems to echo his love for the genre. But the connections don't stop at appearance and voice. Pastor Bob's gestures and movements mirror the iconic stage presence. Observers note the way Pastor Bob moves his hands and even holds his posture, a familiar grace that feels uncomfortably close to the king's own. When Pastor Bob raises his hands or gestures passionately during a sermon, some swear it's as though he himself has returned. Fans also draw parallels between their personalities. He was known for his kindness, humility, and humor, even amidst his superstar status. Pastor Bob, too, has a reputation for warmth, sincerity, and a deep connection with his congregation. This unique blend of compassion and charisma only deepens the belief that his soul might live on in Pastor Bob, both in spirit and in the gentle, humble way he serves others. Another compelling piece of evidence lies in the timeline. He reportedly passed away in 1977, but rumors circulated for years afterward, with countless sightings of him at gas stations, diners, and even concerts. For some, the idea of him faking his death to escape the constant pressure and scrutiny is entirely plausible. Pastor Bob Joyce only began gaining attention years after his supposed death, leaving just enough time for him to step away from the spotlight, reinvent himself, and live quietly as a pastor. The motivation for such a drastic decision would make sense, as he was one of the most recognized and celebrated figures on the planet, but he was also plagued by constant attention and the strain of fame. Imagine the relief of stepping into a new life, one where he could sing, connect with people, and inspire them in a deeply personal way, away from the demands and pressures of stardom. As Pastor Bob, he could find solace in faith and focus on delivering messages of hope, free from the burdens that once overshadowed his life. Further adding to the mystery, Pastor Bob frequently performed songs that were known to be among his favorites. His deep love for gospel music, combined with his uncanny resemblance and familiar voice, makes each performance feel like a hidden tribute to him. Observers feel that when Pastor Bob sings, it's as if they're transported back to the days when he was at his peak. Even skeptics, who argue that many people resemble each other without any deeper link, admit there's something strange about Pastor Bob's similarities to him. They suggest it could be a remarkable coincidence. But with each new piece of evidence, his appearance, his voice, his habits, his music, the argument for coincidence becomes harder to defend. What really fuels the belief, however, is the way Pastor Bob carries himself. He has that same magnetic charisma that he had, the kind that draws people in and makes them feel like they're part of something bigger. People who attend his services often speak of a powerful sense of familiarity, almost as if they've come face to face with a beloved figure from the past. It's not just the appearance, the voice, or the habits that make people believe. It's the sense that they're witnessing the essence of him himself. The memories, the mystery, and the shared connection to gospel music have woven a tapestry of belief that Pastor Bob Joyce might be more than just a preacher. He might be the king himself, living in a quieter way, but still touching lives with the same spirit and warmth that once captivated the world. The likeness is striking. Let's dig into how Pastor Bob seems to echo the king. The Elvis connection in Pastor Bob Joyce's story. While this is all just speculation, the theory that Pastor Bob Joyce might actually be him lives on. There's no hard proof linking Pastor Bob to the king of rock and roll, but the idea has captivated fans and sparked endless curiosity. The thought that maybe, just maybe, he is still out there, living a peaceful life, singing his heart out in a small-town church, feels like a story from a dream, one that's hard to let go of. Of course, skeptics point to the age difference. He was born in 1935, while Pastor Bob was reportedly born in 1952, making them 17 years apart. But some fans argue that records could have been altered and identities reshaped. For believers, the entertainment world is full of stories where truths are bent and records adjusted. The idea that he might have faked his death, taken on a new identity, and begun a new life doesn't seem impossible to them, especially when considering how much these two men have in common. Pastor Bob's mannerisms are another compelling piece of the puzzle. Observers note how his gestures, posture, and even the way he interacts with people mirror the signature stage presence. Fans say it's like watching the king himself, a man whose charisma and energy filled every room. Whether he's swaying to music or strumming his guitar, Pastor Bob's movements bring back memories of him, almost like a whisper from the past, a reminder that he may never have left us at all. There's also a strange familiarity in Pastor Bob's voice. The way he speaks, with timbre, warmth, and a certain soulful quality, makes listeners feel as if he is speaking through him. His voice stirs the same feelings that made him so unforgettable, creating a powerful emotional connection for those who listen. Some believe that, weary of fame, he took on a new life as Pastor Bob, finding peace and purpose away from the chaos of stardom. For these believers, it's as if he chose a simpler life, a way to reconnect with music and faith without the weight of his fame. The passion for gospel music shared by both men remains perhaps the strongest link. Gospel wasn't just music to him. It was a refuge, a place where he found strength and comfort. Pastor Bob has centered his ministry on the gospel, pouring his heart into each performance, drawing his congregation into a spiritual experience. To fans, this shared devotion to gospel music feels like more than coincidence. It's a bond that seems to transcend time and identity, as though his spirit continues to touch lives through Pastor Bob. Despite the doubts of skeptics, believers cling to the little details, the familiar laugh, the gestures, the pauses in speech, all of them reminiscent of him. These tiny, almost imperceptible similarities keep the idea alive that maybe he never really left. For those who see Pastor Bob as more than just a preacher, he represents a living legacy of the king of rock and roll, a hint that he might still be with us in a different form, spreading joy and faith in his own quiet way. And there are still questions surrounding his supposed death in 1977. The official story is that he passed away that August, but rumors and sightings have persisted. Some say the circumstances of his death left unanswered questions, hinting at the possibility of a staged departure. For those who believe he might have faked his death to escape the pressures of fame, Pastor Bob's life as a small-town preacher is the perfect cover, a peaceful escape where he could continue sharing his love for music and faith, far from the relentless spotlight. To the faithful, the evidence feels undeniable. The striking resemblance, shared love for gospel, the voice, the mannerisms, it all forms a story that seems hard to dismiss. While skeptics dismiss it as fantasy, believers see Pastor Bob as the continuation of his legacy. To them, he's a reminder that maybe, just maybe, the king of rock and roll never truly left. Through Pastor Bob, they feel that his music, warmth, and spirit live on, connecting them to the legendary singer who changed the world with his voice and his heart. One clue leads to another. Could Pastor Bob really carry Elvis's spirit? Pastor Bob and the spirit of Elvis. The resemblance between Pastor Bob Joyce and him is undeniable. The looks, the charisma, and the music, they're all there. Believers argue that the age difference is just a smokescreen, distracting from the glaring clues that his spirit, or perhaps even the man himself, might still be among us, quietly living as Pastor Bob. For those drawn to the idea, it's a mystery that keeps the legend alive in a way no impersonator or tribute act ever could. If Pastor Bob really is him, then the king of rock and roll never truly left the building. He's still here, singing his songs and touching the hearts of his listeners. Pastor Bob began his ministry in 1981, just 4 years after his reported death in 1977. For many, this timing is too perfect to ignore. It feels like more than coincidence, as though he staged his own death and chose a quiet life away from fame, hidden in plain sight as a humble pastor. For fans, the timing is no accident. It's a clue, one that hints at a hidden truth behind the iconic figure. Imagine the pressure he must have felt. He was one of the most famous people on the planet, constantly in the spotlight, his every move followed by the media and fans alike. A peaceful, private life would have offered a break from the chaos, a chance to pursue what he truly loved. For him, gospel music was always a refuge, a place of deep, spiritual connection. The idea of stepping away from the pressures of stardom to live a more meaningful life through faith and music seems like the kind of choice the king might make. Believers see more than a mere resemblance. Pastor Bob's presence, his warmth, and the way he moves align closely with the Elvis they remember. His gestures, the way he stands, and even the way he interacts with people bring back memories of the captivating charm. For those who believe, this resemblance is far too strong to ignore. They feel that he didn't vanish. He simply reappeared with a new purpose, swapping fame and lights for the solace of a simpler life. And then there's his voice. Pastor Bob's deep, resonant voice carries a striking similarity to his. He sings, it's as though you're hearing him himself. His southern drawl, the unique vibrato, the soulfulness. It's all there, almost like the king of rock and roll never left. When Pastor Bob sings gospel, it stirs the same emotions that his performances once did. To believers, this voice isn't just similar. It's a continuation of his passion for music, echoing through each heartfelt note. His love for gospel music was no secret. Even at the height of his fame, he often returned to gospel, finding peace and comfort in its messages. Pastor Bob, too, has centered his ministry on gospel, pouring his heart and soul into the songs, just as he once did. For those who believe in the connection, this shared love for gospel music isn't just a coincidence. It's a powerful link that seems to transcend time and identity. But the intrigue doesn't stop at music. Pastor Bob's smile bears a peculiar resemblance to the iconic grin. He had a gap between his teeth that he later closed for his Hollywood career. Decades later, Pastor Bob's smile seems almost identical to his, complete with similar dental work. For conspiracy theorists, this detail is more than just a strange coincidence. It's another piece of a larger puzzle. Skeptics, however, quickly dismiss the theory. They point to the 17-year age difference as undeniable proof that Pastor Bob and he couldn't possibly be the same person. But true believers suggest that records could have been altered or identities reshaped to allow him a fresh start. To them, his escape from fame and reinvention as Pastor Bob isn't far-fetched. It's a chance to find peace, a new purpose, and the freedom to sing without the weight of fame. For believers, the age difference, timeline, and resemblance all seem like intentional clues left by a man who wanted to retreat from the public eye without losing his connection to people. They see a pattern in the details. A man moving from superstardom to a quieter life where he could focus on music and faith. Pastor Bob's calm demeanor, his passion for gospel, and his humble nature all seem like a natural evolution of his personality. The theory captures imaginations worldwide because it suggests that fame doesn't define a person's spirit or purpose. It paints a picture of him not as a legend trapped in his own fame, but as a man who found a way to live by his own rules. It's a story that speaks to the enduring appeal of his music, his spirituality, and his heart. And then, there's the mystery surrounding his supposed death. The official story says he passed away in 1977, but rumors and strange details have always lingered. Conflicting reports, rushed funerals, and countless supposed sightings fueled speculation that he faked his death to escape the overwhelming pressure of his life. The idea of him faking his death to find peace appeals to many fans. For believers, the story doesn't end with his passing. It's as if he staged his own exit, seeking a new life that allowed him to sing, reflect, and connect with people on a deeper level. If this theory holds any truth, then the story of Pastor Bob and him is not just about resemblance, but about transformation and freedom. The possibility of him choosing to live as Pastor Bob invites believers to imagine the ultimate act of reinvention. Escaping the stage for a quiet life filled with gospel and spiritual purpose, he could live without screaming fans, paparazzi, or the demands of being a rock legend. For those who embrace the theory, Pastor Bob represents a version of him who chose peace over fame, heart over spotlight, a life that's as inspiring as it is mysterious. The story is a blend of fact, faith, and hope, a tale of a man who might have defied the boundaries of fame to find true fulfillment. Whether or not Pastor Bob is him, the story has already become a legend, one that keeps his spirit alive and allows fans to hold on to the idea that he never truly left us. It's a powerful thought, that perhaps the king of rock and roll is still out there, sharing his voice, his passion, and his heart with a quiet, loyal following. For believers, It's not just a theory, but a legacy, a tribute to his spirit, his music, and the unbreakable connection he has with those who love him. The idea of him living a humble life as Pastor Bob is a mystery that may never be solved, but one thing remains clear. The King's legacy, his essence, and his voice still echo today, maybe closer than anyone could ever imagine. Could the King of rock and roll truly have walked away from it all, living among us as Pastor Bob Joyce? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more twists in this mystery.